The arithmetic functions in life: addition, multiplication, and exponentiation. He said this to test him, for he himself knew what he would do. John 6:6, Western English Bible. I'll start with a simple mathematical definition. The mathematicians say, during the process of addition, the final outcome of the addends is different than the numbers themselves. If the two addends are equal, we have multiplication. If the factors of a product are equal, we have exponentiation. So in order for two people to come together in one place, they must be different. If they are not different, you can never have addition. Keep in mind that addition and multiplication are two different processes. And most mathematicians say that from addition comes multiplication, and from multiplication comes exponentiation. Therefore, when you want to resolve an issue according to the law of addition, the addends, or let's call them the sides of this equation or this action, must be different. In no way can you gather two men in one place, nor can you gather two women in one place, but you can gather one man and one woman. Consequently, the man and the woman begin with the first processes because they are different. And the Lord also begins with addition. The law states that multiplication stems from addition, and indeed this is so. To which process do children belong when they are born in a household? To multiplication. They multiply. Consequently, they must be equal. There can only be equality when there is multiplication. But in order for a man to rise to a higher level of exponentiation, then the factors that produce the product must be equal. Now let me proceed to the subject. Life itself is a great task whose resolution must begin with addition, multiplication, subtraction, and division. This is how it can be solved. First and foremost, we must begin with the two processes, adding and multiplying. After this, when we study this great law in life, we will proceed to the other two functions, subtraction and division. You studied these functions. What great secrets are hidden in these processes in mathematics? And when we learn to add correctly, when we learn to multiply and exponentiate correctly, it means that we understood this great process that continues on sequentially. You cannot multiply before adding. You cannot exponentiate before you multiply. That is, you cannot pass through exponentiation unless you pass through the other three processes. Now Christ is testing them. What is he testing them for? All of us are only interested in one thing: to live. Since food is one of the conditions for maintaining life, we are fooling ourselves when we say we cannot live without bread. Today, everyone maintains that you cannot live without bread. It's ridiculous to think that one cannot live without bread. As long as you live, you can also do without bread. If you don't live, you also can't do without bread. What does the assertion or denial of a fact show? When a fact is asserted, it shows that it is outside in the physical world, and when it is denied, it shows that it is inside, within the spiritual world. Hence, it cannot exist in two places at the same time, which is to say, it cannot manifest in two directions. Man cannot be both good and bad at the same time. Note that I take the word bad or evil as one manifestation, not as you take it. There is relative evil, and there is evil in principle. That which hinders our personal life we call evil for ourselves, but that which hinders one person can serve for the good of another. When you eat a lamb, how do you justify your action? It is justified by the fact that you live. But one day, you will correct your mistake. When you die, however, you cannot justify this act with anything. Everyone wants to come together. Everyone wants to multiply, to be taken to the next power. Everyone wants that. It's built into the foundation. But modern people don't want to be tested. When it comes to trials, they say, everything is good, but we don't want these trials. Now I will give you an occult story to make this verse a little clearer. I will speak to you in parables and symbols, because the naked truth is unbearable for people, just as the light is unbearable without a certain medium to soften it, like water, for instance, and clouds. When it is softened, it becomes such that we can bear it. In antiquity, 12,000 years ago, as the legend has it, for we speak according to legend, not according to facts, there was once a kingdom in Asia, or Asia Minor. The king in that kingdom was a very pious man. An excellent son was born to him, who was very wise and capable, who showed great promise and much prosperity to the world. However, the astrologers of that time, the wise men, predicted that an event would happen to the son that would change the whole destiny of his life. One day, after his father's death, the young prince went hunting, and as he was chasing a deer to kill it, he passed by a dry branch, which poked him in the right eye and gouged it out, thereby blinding him. This young king, in order to avoid being shamed by his subjects for being careless, said that heaven had blessed him with a great blessing, and that all good people should have one eye taken out, the left one, not the right one. And so he made it a rule that everyone who came to visit him must take out his right eye. This was a privilege for those who would be visiting him, and in order to receive a royal favor, they had to take out their right eye. So anyone who didn't have a right eye went to the king. However, when the time came for him to inherit the kingdom, he had to marry. He married a very beautiful princess. One day, unfortunately, a stone fell and crushed her nose. To keep people from saying that this queen suffered due to her carelessness, she said that having a crushed nose was the greatest favor. So, all women who wanted to meet with her had to have a crushed nose. So in this kingdom, all men who visited the king had their right eye removed, and all women who visited the queen had their noses crushed. I think that since then, people have had this feeling of boasting about their shortcomings. To prove that this is so, do you know how long the people have had the custom of cutting their hair? One of the French kings had a wound on his head, and to show people that he was a hero, he cut his hair. And all the other men, after his fashion, cut their hair short, but I don't see any of their characteristics on the head. So those women among you whose noses are flattened either physically or in the heart or mentally have visited this queen, and those men whose eye is gouged out either physically or in the heart or mentally have visited this king 12,000 years ago. Understand this as I told you, namely, in mathematics, in addition, the addends are not equal. In multiplication, they are equal. And in exponentiation, the products are equal. This life that is now nested within us, I am talking about the conscious life, it has its own origin. By the word origin, I mean when this life acquired form. I will say this, out of the formless came the formed thing. Out of the nameless came the named, and out of the infinite came the finite. So, first, a form needs to manifest, and then it needs to be given a name. And when the infinite or the eternal becomes fixed. Then come the finite things. Now philosophers ask, what is finite? The formed is that which is connected with the formless. In particular, it's that which is connected with the nameless. The finite is that which is connected with the infinite. There is no contradiction here. In order to understand things on earth, in order to study them, they must take on form. They must have a name. They must have limitation. Consequently, our life is formed, named, and finite. When I say finite, it doesn't mean that life ends. Philosophy is required here. You need to think. Some people want to enter the world without form. If the Lord, who is from the endless eternity, has the desire to create a form, to create a name and an end, something finite, are we smarter for wanting to become formless, nameless, and infinite? This shows that we're the stupidest people. This is where sufferings come from. This is what we modern people want. When we commit some crime, to have it lose its form. When we commit some crime, not to have its name known, and when we commit some crime, to put limitations on it. But this is not life. This is what I call an anomaly. This is a deviation from life. It is like those little drops of water that deviate from the general current. I have nothing against this. How and from where did this life of ours originate, which now appears formed? From the infinite life. And what is a finite and an infinite life? What we do is finite, but what God does is infinite. Consequently, we always know that when our works are infinite, we are saying that God has made things finite. How do you understand finite things? When you have credit in a bank, you constantly go and take out money, and the process goes smoothly. But when you commit a crime, your benefactor says to the bank, "Don't give him any more," and your aid becomes finite. It comes to an end. Why? Because you committed a crime, and whenever goodness is cut short, when some misfortunes come, people have committed some crime. Consequently, the divine bank of life gives the command to make things finite. Everything becomes finite only when you lose it. When you are about to die, you say, "Life is over. It has become finite." Why has the time come for you to die? You are called to give an answer to the divine bank, so they can know how you lived. But people say, "We have the right to eat, to drink, and to live." You don't have the right. You're not free. Only a person who has learned to add, multiply, and exponentiate can be free. A free mother is only one who can give birth to good and wise children. Because what will these children turn out to be? They will be exponentiated. The man and the woman form the addition. The children form the multiplication, and their development implies the exponentiation. Consequently, development begins with addition. So Christ turns to his disciples to test them and says, "Where can we buy bread that these may eat?" The people of today will say that we should take this bread from the fields. The farmers have a way. They throw these grains of wheat into the ground and they multiply. And you, the citizens of the city, go and measure it, and this process happens. Now I ask, is there any other way of eating in nature besides this one? Or is it the only way? There is another way. One day you will take food as freely as you take air. The air doesn't pass through any barns, through any mills, through any ovens. And breathing is also eating. In 1 minute, one consumes 20 lunches. Look at how often one eats. The day will come when we will take food as freely as we take air. But when will it be? When the people learn to add, multiply, and exponentiate. when people learn not to boast about their shortcomings. We modern people, for all our shortcomings, for all our crimes, will always have some excuse to justify ourselves. We might say that society is like this, that the mother and father are like this, that the generation is like this, and that we are pure people who bear no responsibility. The daughter says to her mother, "Why did you give birth to me?" The son also says to his mother, "Why did you give birth to me?" But son, your mother did not give birth to you. You made her give birth to you. There was a time when she was a young woman, and you compelled her not to stay in the house, to go and meet people, to get married. But now you ask your mother why she gave birth to you. But it was you, son, who made me give birth to you. Someone says that God created the world. I say that we made God create the world. And now we ask him why he created the world like this. The Lord says, "This is your world. I made it the way you wanted it, according to your plan." And now, whoever you meet says that the world was not made well. Well, how so? He says, "This should be here, that should be there." And even after there is everything, he says again that the world is rotten. Consequently, the present world is a world produced by people. When I say this world, I am not talking about the divine world, but about ours. That's why you must distinguish between the divine world and the human world. In the human world, there is disharmony. In the human world, there is opposition. There is evil and good. Why is there evil and good? Is it because some people are good and others are bad? This is how they want to live. They voluntarily choose to live good or evil lives. No one forces you to live an evil life in the world. You want to live this way because in every evil there is a certain pleasure, a pleasantness. When a wolf eats a sheep, do you really think he experiences something evil? When he eats it, he says, "This is life." But when the shepherd catches him and skins him, he says to himself, "If I had known that I would be skinned for a sheep, I could have eaten grass." Consequently, when it comes to giving an account of our bad deeds or crimes, we say, "That's too bad," because we are not the only factors. Consequently, the finite beings who formed the finite forms and the finite names, they made everything finite. The world is now full of finite threads. It is made out of threads. We always hear the sewing machines go clank, clank, clank. So now we sew everything out of threads, and then we say, "It began to tear. It unraveled." Yes, it's made out of threads. Now both our thoughts and actions are made out of threads. And our morality is the same. The woman lives a moral life. Why? Because there's a piece of wood for her, a stick. She says, "I live an honorable life." Why? Because my master has a piece of wood. She fears her husband. The households fear society. The society fears the nation, and so on. Everyone lives honorably because there's a piece of wood. And this is not a fresh young piece of wood, but a dry and aged one. I take this piece of wood in a broad sense as a personification of those obstacles that create our misfortunes. And when we don't know how to get rid of them, all the contradictions arise in our mind. Now Christ is testing all the disciples. What task did he give them? Can the world be created another way? There are thousands and millions of ways in which the material world can be transformed. Then what is the difference between one world and the other? Take the physical, astral, and mental worlds. Each one of these worlds has its own object. Each one of these worlds has its own matter, which is shaped according to the laws that exist there. And all these worlds are connected to each other. For instance, take the word hardness in the physical world. If you enter the astral world, where will you find hardness there? There you will see hardness in the intensity of desires. Consequently, the stronger and hotter a desire is, it shows the hardness in the intensity of desires. It shows that it is also more hardened. Just as a hard object can harm you, similarly, a hardened desire in your heart can harm you. Where will you find hardness in the mental world? There you will find it in the power of thought. The stronger the thought, the harder it is. Hence, if a strong thought is thrown at you, it will produce the same effect as if a hard object were thrown at you on the physical plane. And when a person passes from one world to another, he must know the laws by which matter is transformed. There is a huge difference between a hardened object, a desire, and a thought. There is a similarity between a thought, a desire, and the intention of your action in the physical field, but there is also a huge difference. And so, things on earth become solid through the power of thought and the intensity of the desires. And when are people the hardest? The hardest people are the selfish ones. The hardest object, the hardest substance that has been formed up to this point, is the centrifugal force that has concentrated all the forces of the cosmos to work for this object. When a hardened man takes over as the ruler of the world, he will produce the greatest misfortunes. Hence, all the misfortunes in the world come from this law of concentration, which is not in agreement with the divine law of love. The verse says that Christ knew what he was going to do. He multiplied these 5 loaves without money, according to the law that he knew, and 5,000 people were fed from them, leaving 12 baskets of leftovers. With these 12 baskets, those of you who are listening to me can also eat, and there will be 12 more baskets left. But let me return to the essential thought. Life is the most important thing in the world. Through life, you will find your soul. Through life, you will find your mind. Through life, you will find your heart, because life will give you what is necessary for you to know your soul. Life will give a form in order for your soul to take shape. I take the word shape in accordance with the law of development. When your soul develops, then it can be visible. When the mind develops, only then will it become visible. The beauty of things is seen only when they are visible. Philosophers claim that some things are visible and some are invisible. That is, according to the ability to see. By visible, they mean only those things that can be touched. Philosophers claim that some things are visible and some are invisible. That is, according to the vision, only those things that are touched are visible. No, the law of vision means otherwise. It doesn't mean only those 5 senses that we experiment with. The occult science says that there are 7 bodies within man, 7 feelings each, which means 49 feelings, which then multiply by 49. How many will you get? And when you multiply these by 49, the feelings in the world are innumerable. The senses with which we perceive the nuances of the universe are infinite, but we ordinary people want to find a rational number with which to know them. And so, when we develop these 49 feelings within us, Scripture says that then we will know the world and will know God as He knows us. Another thing that you must keep in mind is that I don't want you to be happy in the world. And do you know why? Because you can't be happy. When someone tells you that he wants you to be happy, he is saying impossible things. Yes, if he tells you that he wants you to have a pure heart, an enlightened mind, and a strong spirit, that is different. But if he tells you that he wants you to be happy, he is lying to you. Your friend needs to help you grow and develop, not to make you happy. And the child shouldn't expect the mother to make him happy, but to support him in life. But now the children want happiness from their mothers, the mothers from their children. The servants want happiness from their masters, the masters from their servants, and thus we have a false philosophy where everyone promises what they cannot give you. No form, no organization can make you happy, but it can serve as a condition for you to grow, to become stronger. You say, but perhaps it can in the future. It's possible. But the question is whether this can occur on the physical plane. It can't. Consequently, in the physical world, you do not have happiness as an object, but only as a distant goal. Keep in mind your heart, your mind, your soul, and then you can make use of the life that is in you. The young woman who wants to marry a young man should know that he is the king with one eye. It is a great privilege for some women to get married. They say, how can we remain unmarried? Since you want to marry your king, you must take out your right eye. Sometimes the man says, I have to get married. Yes, but you have to crush your nose a little. When the woman marries, she always sets a goal to humble her husband, to crush his nose a little. And all the men who are married have crushed noses, and all the women who are married are without one eye, the right one. Consequently, according to the law of heredity, boys who resemble their father will have crushed noses, and girls who resemble their mother will have the right eye removed. Then you ask yourselves, why these misfortunes? Because 12,000 years ago, when a royal son went hunting and chased down a deer to kill it, he accidentally gouged out his right eye and made the following law. Any person who wants to see him must remove his right eye. And nature adopted this thought. And that is why blind people are born. Christ comes to you and asks, why are the women blind in one eye? The woman says, Lord, my husband gouged out my eye. No, it was a great privilege for you to go to this king, to present yourself to him for an audience. Well, what did you gain by having your eye taken out? Christ says, if your eye tempts you, pluck it out. The woman had to take out her eye before she could see her husband. And when she took it out, she was never supposed to go to him. The husband is a temptation to the woman. And all the evils, all the debauchery, all the decadence of women is due to the men, and vice versa. All the debauchery, all the decadence of the men is due to the women. A woman cannot spoil another woman. Consequently, those who had their eye removed corrupted the women, whereas those who had a crushed nose corrupted the men. Well, do you think that a husband who takes his wife out into the world is nicely dressed and the way they lead a horse to the market, that he proceeds wisely? No. But now all the women want this. When Christ tests you, all of you want to become brides and to be very well dressed, but you should not only be dressed on the outside. Did your beloved dress your soul with these silk clothes? Did he dress your soul with his love? He is able to buy you a dress, gloves, and shoes, but you are naked on the inside. This is on the women's side. I ask the men, what did you do for your women? Now I ask the women, you, women, what did you do for your men? How did you dress them? And so, in the future, the men and women must dress in a new form, which is now being shaped in the universe. And in that sphere, there are new suits for men and women with which they will marry. Do you know what the new brand of this form is? That's the place where you have to go in order to buy your wife's bridal clothes, hats, shoes, and gloves, according to the latest fashion. And when you bring them to her, there will be an inscription above. I can't tell you the name of these clothes. I'm not allowed to say it, but you'll find the brand. Go and ask the priests, the statesmen, the philosophers and the teachers, the theosophists, the occultists, where this new brand can be found, which has now taken shape in the world. If they know, let them tell you. They know. A person who can do evil can also do good. A person who knows this world can also know the other world. This is how I reason on the matter. At the time, it was a question of feeding 5,000 people from Christ's point of view. I ask, these people who are suffering and starving today, what are we going to feed them with? This bread cannot repair the world. What we need now are bridal dresses from this new brand, and then when mothers conceive and give birth to children, they will solve this great task of addition, multiplication, and exponentiation. Then we will only have servants of the new culture who will understand what it means for a person to be good, what it means for a person to be wise, what it means for a person to be honest and loving. You will reply back to me and tell me what it means for a person to love. You will say, it's a very good thing. Yes, you are right. It is a very good thing to love. But I ask those of you who have loved, have you not repented 10 times for your love? Why this repentance? The repentance comes from the fact that this love was not as it should have been. Where there is repentance, there is no love. And in my opinion, love that cannot endure all the trials of life is only a human concept of love. It's not the love that holds, that carries life within itself. I'm not saying that you don't have love, but you dwell on the things that represent life, and you move away from the essential. You dwell on one thing or another, but you do not dwell on the essential that constitutes life. And the verse says, and he said this to test them because he knew what he was going to do. A great misfortune comes into your home, a great trial. The question is how you ought to resolve it. This is a trial. How will you resolve it? You know how it needs to be resolved. A gentle answer, says Solomon, gives what? A gentle answer gives calmness. A kind word gives comfort, and a loving word, uttered on time, gives life. But you can't always speak in love throughout your entire earthly life. There is only 1 year, 1 month, 1 Sunday, 1 day, 1 hour, 1 minute, only 1 second when you are able to utter this word. There is 1 moment in your whole life when you can speak a word of love. If you succeed, you achieve everything. If you fail, your whole life is lost. It's only a single moment. Everything else is a preparation for that moment, for that second. If you grasp it, you will have bread for 5,000 people. If you lose it, doubts will come, along with disappointments in life. You'll think, this is not worth it, that is not worth it. You, my friend, have lost that great moment of love. This is not just an allegory. This is a great truth. I won't tell you what year it might come. It might not be earlier than your 21st year, but not later than your 120th year. From your 21st to your 120th year, you have so much to calculate. Like an astronomer, you have to calculate in which day this comet will pass so you can see it. And when all the great people study, they have the desire to find this moment of love, so we can grasp it, so they can tell it to us, and we can tell it to them. There is nothing better than this. being able to exchange 2 words, but wise words. You go to visit someone's house and start yapping away, chatter, 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 chatter about this and that. When you leave, you say, "My head is dizzy. I got a headache from so many stories." And the host and hostess of the house where you went also complain about their heads being dizzy. No, each of them should have said only 1 word. They should have said it to you, and then you should have said it. Now, I want to draw your attention. You are one of those great philosophers who say, "Give us tools, give us good mothers and fathers, let's see what we can do." No, you are geniuses. You created this world. Why would you be unable to find mothers and fathers? If you are able to make God create your world according to your wish, you are also able to find such mothers. My words may seem strange to you. You may wonder how it's possible to force God to do this. This is a philosophical sentence. You can only make someone who loves you do something for you. Since God is boundless love, you can make him do a lot of things. We made him create this world, and God says, "This is what my children want," because he loves you. If you ask me how the existence of God's love can be proven, I will tell you that it is proven by the fact that evil exists. Because God loves you, he has given you unlimited rights, but you will also bear the consequences. Consequently, when you are asked what love is known by, you should answer, "Love is known by the fact that it allows the existence of evil." When love comes out and manifests in the physical plane, there is evil. Children love an apple. They fight over it. They quarrel. They pluck each other's hair. However, if love exists in them as consciousness, the 2 brothers will divide the apple between themselves, and they won't fight. If there are 4 brothers, they will split it into 4 parts. Consequently, when love is born only in the physical world, evil is born. And when love returns inside man, the good is born within him. That's why there are some people who resolve issues externally and others internally. There are certain results in one world and other results in the other, but both do God's will. If you had no love for the apple, would there be an argument? And now we say, "If it weren't for this apple, our heads wouldn't have turned white. We would have been happy." What is the first apple? It is the first fruit of love, woman. And there are no men in this world, only women. But the women, when they saw themselves alone in the world, said, "What should we do? How should we project ourselves?" And that's why today, half of them are women, half are men. The world hasn't moved forward because only the woman rules it. The man is not there. There are mothers, but no fathers. However, when that divine man comes and begins to work with this woman who is currently playing the role of a man, the world will improve. You say, "Away with these men!" But you still haven't seen the men. The man says, "Oh, that woman!" But you're this kind of woman. You might say, "My form is different, but I too am a woman." But now both the man and the woman are upset, yet the 2 of them are very similar things. Consequently, this is the law of multiplication. It is said that in order for there to be addition, the things must be different. The husband gets upset and the wife gets upset. The husband beats and the wife beats. The husband rubs and yanks hairs and the wife also yanks hairs. How do they differ? This is multiplication. I ask, where is the addition? Where are the first husband and the first wife? Where are they? You must solve things in principle. You must look at life philosophically. I am only giving you a reason to think, not to be guided by a foolish philosophy about how the world was created. This world was created by people. That's why I call it the world of illusions. I know the world of God. I live in it. There are no illusions there. It is completely different. They say that the world is transient. It is only transient because we have created our thoughts in formlessness. And we say that this is the divine world and we must study it. I say, this is a pathological world of men. And I would say, according to Lombroso, that in this world we study criminal types. This is not a rational world. Some people say, let's study criminals. There is no reason to study the criminal types, but we should study the healthy type of people. Then what is our moral principle for life? You, men and women, when you come together, when you lay the foundation of life, why do you come together? The woman says, well, I love him. Good. I'm glad. Love is an excellent thing. I ask the man, why do people come together? I love her. Good. This is excellent. But when these people come together, they become enemies. You see them at home. The husband hides the revolver. The wife does the same. And when they see each other all day, they go, boom, boom, boom. At least once during the year, or during the month, or every day, there will be shootouts. And then they say, the Lord made the man and the woman this way. This is a pathological result. This is not divine. The Lord said, the man must have only one woman, and the woman must have only one man. Yet today's men have so many women, and today's women have so many men. This is a pathological fact. Once upon a time, it was respectable for a woman to have many husbands, and vice versa. I'll talk to you about this culture sometime, and it is written in the divine law. A husband will have only one wife, and a wife will have only one husband. The husband says, but my wife is ugly. I want a beautiful wife. The woman says, my husband is ugly. He's a scholar, but he's a bit of a nitwit. He doesn't understand his life, whereas the other one is richer. Well, what kind of philosophy is this? The teacher came after some mothers saying, let's educate these children. It would be ridiculous to try and educate a wolf. You can turn him into a shepherd's dog, but a day will always come when he will touch one of the sheep. Today's teachers educate children who cannot be educated. The church educates the congregation, but it achieves the same result. Unless the principle is put into our lives that a woman must have only one husband, no heart or mind can be changed. If a woman loves her husband, she must be ready to sacrifice herself for all of mankind. This is a woman. If the husband says that by loving his wife he is willing to sacrifice himself for all of mankind, this is the first couple who will fix the world. The woman who differentiates between the love of one man and another creates the conditions for evil to be born. All evils are born in this woman. The evils are cracks in life, and the cracks appear as a result of the splitting of a great divine thought, the splitting of a desire, the splitting of this great divine principle of love. I don't want you to judge. Don't say, what are we going to do now? I will justify you. You are now in the preface of this life. Consequently, your marriage represents the preface of your future. And I would say to you, go and sin no more. And in the future, do not marry each other the way you marry each other now. I am saying this not only to the elders, but to all of you. This should be a great moment, the opportunity to grasp life. And when we grasp it this way, we will solve this social issue so that we will be in harmony with God. We will be able to work with Him. And then we will not have to ask what He is, where He is, but we will know Him as He knows us. Today, not tomorrow. I'm talking about today, not about the future. I'm not talking about the future centuries. Now is the time. Plant this little seed, and in years to come, you will have the best fruit. Today, you have the conditions for planting. Then start pulling the weeds around this planted place and water the seed a little bit. It will grow and then give you a new understanding of the soul. He said this to test them. And now either Christ or God is testing everyone. What are we to do? I resolve this matter cardinally, on a fundamental level, like this. The woman should have only one husband, and the husband only one wife. And there should be no trace of jealousy in the heart of the husband, and no trace of jealousy in the heart of the wife. But you say, God was jealous. You made him like this. You created him this way. And what does Christ say about him? He is only good, for he never resents and will create everything. Even the spirits can be jealous. So what? But the ideal, the perfect, the divine excludes every act of jealousy. The ideal excludes every doubt. The ideal excludes all suspicion. The ideal excludes every act of violence in the world. And so, this is the task the world is now solving. All the people are on this plane and they're asking, what should we do? Everyone is aware that the modern system is on the decline. The modern system is being shaken. How are people supposed to live? They must live in a new way. According to this concept, the woman should not be blind in one eye, and the man should not have a crushed nose. You might find yourself in contradiction, and you say, Christ said to take out one of the eyes. Yes, but he added a condition. If. He said, if your right eye tempts you, take it out. But if it doesn't tempt you, it would be better for you to enter the kingdom of God with both your eyes. Consequently, you modern women will enter the kingdom of God with one eye, and the men with crushed noses. They will still accept you there, but they will know your story and say, these are just people. It is better to have two eyes and a straight nose, because the perfect, the divine, requires that everything be in its place, and that neither the nose be crushed nor the two eyes be taken out. By nose, I mean the human mind, and by the right eye, I mean the heart in its manifestations. When I say not to remove the right eye, it means not to remove the activity of the heart. When was the woman left with one eye? When she loved for the first time. Afterwards, she became afraid of love. Why? She doesn't want to give her eye anymore. And she's right. That man will say to her, if you love me, take out your two eyes. I don't know if this is love. Now, not only does Christ need to know what he is about to do, but we also need to know what we have to do. We say, God knows his task very well. I don't dispute that God knows his task, but we don't know our task. And we wait for God to fix the world. We need to know what we have to do today. But then people stop and say, since God knows what he has to do, we don't have to know. No, we must also know our basic duty on earth. For this day, we must know what we should go through. We must know which desires, which thoughts to allow, how to act. We have to know this every moment. But you say, we're ignorant. How did this ignorance form? If you come into my room, I can immediately make you ignorant. How? If I turn off the lights and make you bring this and that, you'll break everything. But if I turn on my lamp, you will become scholars. Consequently, we have closed the doors of our minds and hearts and say, God, forgive us. No, we need to know how to love, how to have affection, how to believe. What should we believe in? I don't want philosophical delusions, but the principle of faith must be in us. We should not tell anyone that we love him. You say, tell me one word that you love me. All right, I love you. Saying that I love you is good, but does your word contain this great content? Does it contain one great thought, or does it have two different thoughts? When I say I love you, you must know that it is so. When I say I believe, you must know that it is so. When we say a word, we have to uphold it. It has to mean a great divine principle. This is what Christ is testing you in now. He's testing me too. God is testing you too. When I speak now, someone looks at me and says, look at how cunning this man is. What a trickster he is. But we won't be fooled. We have already seen these kinds of people. I say, brother, I've been through this too. The art is not to lie to you. Everyone knows how to lie, but to live a good life is an art. I am teaching you the true art of life. I don't say believe this to anyone, but I say see for yourself. Check it. These laws are not mine. They exist from the infinite eternity. They have always existed. Life rests on them. I have spoken of them, and many others will speak of them. Truth and love are not a monopoly. They are the principle governing all of us, and everyone can benefit from them. Some say, look at how he looks at us. He's fixing his eyes on us. He wants to hypnotize us. No, if I wanted to hypnotize you, I would have taken out my revolver, and I would have said, now give me your coin pouch here. And then I would grow my sideburns, and you wouldn't recognize me. People who hypnotize walk around with masks, yet I am without a mask. My wish is not that you should be happy, but that you should be pure in heart and increase in wisdom and knowledge. I don't wish for you to be happy. Why? Because you would be the most unfortunate people in the world, and for that, I do not wish your happiness. If I come to your homes and see happiness as an ideal, I will say, take down this icon from here and put something else in its place. Everyone wants to be happy. You say, let's earn some money today so we can be happy. But what if you die tomorrow? Why should you chase the wind for nothing? If you have one friend who loves you, and he has another friend, this second friend has his own friend, then none of these friends will do you harm. Consequently, only by this law can we secure ourselves. We will put all our efforts into having one friend, one brother, who will love us, who will be ready to stand with us in all of life's moments. Then his friend, his child's friend, his wife's friend will act according to the same law. This is the task. And today I would like to tell you, when you go home, to take down the icon of happiness and put it in its place. Replace it with the following inscription. Love requires a feat of heroism, courage, and determination in life for the upliftment of all our brothers and sisters in this world. Put it there and apply it. When you remove this false deity and put on the new inscription, you will hear the angels singing from above, and all the blessings will come upon you. These are not philosophical statements. These are not speculations. This is not hypnotism. This is not bewitchment. This is a great philosophy of life, which is not to make you happy, but to make you with a strong spirit, with enlightened minds and pure hearts, to make you citizens of that kingdom which is now entering the cosmos of the universe. As soon as you put up this inscription, fear will come out of your bodies and your pants will not tremble. The woman will no longer fear her husband and say, "Oh my, when my husband comes, what will he say?" And the husband will not say the same, but will say, "Ah, let my beloved come. Now I know her." This is the all-embracing principle that begins in the home, passes into societies, into the nation, and from there into all of mankind. This principle must penetrate everywhere. It is coming and it will penetrate, like the air, the water, and the light. No material, no matter how dense and tough, will remain without this principle penetrating there. It will soften all brains. Many scientists' brains, bones, and nerves have softened, and then they say, "Everything has stunted." Everything will soften. Everything will become intelligent. There will be no friction, but there will be great harmony between people. They will understand each other in their minds and hearts. When I look at you, I say, "Did you write this inscription that love requires a heroic feat, not just for oneself, but for this common principle, for the great Lord, for whom everything must be sacrificed? When we sacrifice everything for Him, then He will sacrifice everything for us, and we will unite with Him. Then new people will come, new thoughts. Everything will be one. I'm not preaching morality, but a life that is pure and holy, but not a so-called priestly holiness, not a teacher's holiness, not a mother's holiness, but a holiness that cannot be defiled by anything. A holiness of which John said, "The light shines and the darkness did not overcome it." The kind of morality that cannot be turned into darkness is true, and all morality which is turned into darkness is not morality. It is immorality. Become ye dead, revive ye that are risen, and resurrect ye that are revived, and God will be with you. Lecture held on the 29th of May, 1921.